All right, so here in 3.2, we're going to start adding in different compound statements and connectives here. So we've already talked about if we have P, all right, and then the idea of negation for like not P. Okay, so we talked about that in 3.1. Our first connective we're going to go ahead and refer to as a conjunction. And a conjunction is using the word and. So this would be said P and Q. All right. Other words that you can hear besides and, other words but, yet, and nevertheless. Okay. So you'll see both of those things going. So here I have two statements. P, it is after 5 p.m. And statement Q, they are working. And I want to go ahead and make a statement for P and Q. All right. So P is, it is after 5 p.m. And they are working. Okay. Now, of course, in addition to all our compound statements, the negation can come into play with this. So let's go ahead and look at some more. Here I have a statement P, I'm leaving, and a statement Q, you're staying. Okay. So if I'm saying I'm leaving and you're staying, the word and implies that I'm leaving is P, you're staying is Q. So this one was pretty straightforward. Okay. The next statement is you're staying is my Q. And I'm not leaving, that's the negation, so not P. I'm leaving, the third statement, P, and you're not staying, negation of Q. All right, so the word and implies our statement here. Okay, and then we have to look if we're negating the current P and Q or if we're just using the P and Q that we already have. Disjunction is our or. It's the reverse of that. Okay, so it's an upside down. This one looks like a V as opposed to the upside down V. Okay, so P is I study. Q is I pass the course. All right. So I study is our P, or I pass the course, that's our Q. Okay, so this one is a straight disjunction or statement. Okay. I study, or I do not pass the course. Now this is the negation of Q. Okay, and I'm going to say it's very important to know the difference of conjunction and disjunction as we go into 3.3 when we start our truth tables. All right, so although this may be fairly simple to go ahead and start off with, make sure that you truly understand what each of these symbols do, especially as we go into 3.3. All right, we have our conditional statement. The conditional statement is your first statement, an arrow going one direction toward the right, and your second statement. Okay, it's usually called an if-then statement. Those are the words you see a lot. So if P, then Q. If, then. Other wording that you'll see is P is sufficient for Q. And although these are reversed, this is the same thing. Q is necessary for P. P only if Q. Only if comes up a lot too. Okay, so if, then, and only if are the words you're going to see a lot more of than the other two. All right, let's go ahead and look at one. P, this is an alligator. Statement Q, this is a reptile. Okay, and I want to write this in symbolic form. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is if this is not an alligator, then this is not a reptile. Notice there's my if and then statement. So I know we're going to use a conditional statement. All right. This is not an alligator. That is the negation of P. On the other side of this is not a reptile. This is the negation of Q. All right. So you're looking as you're going through all these statements, and this is our third statement here, our if-then. Look for those keywords and, or, if-then. Look for those keywords as you're going ahead and writing statements out. The biconditional statement is an arrow going both directions. And we say if and only if. And you'll see them almost all the time in that format, if and only if. So the conditional is an if-then, or only if. This one will be if and only if. You will often see it abbreviated as IFF. Okay. If you go further in math classes and have to do proofing, you'll see this happen a lot. So, if P, then Q, and Q, then P. All right? So it means that it has to be true not only one direction, P to Q. It also has to be true for Q to P. All right. So biconditional means it's true no matter which direction you follow the arrow, which is why it's a double arrow. All right. Let's go ahead and look at a biconditional statement. P, the campus is closed on Sunday. Q, it is Sunday. All right. It is not Sunday if and only if. There's my biconditional statement. The campus is not closed. Okay. So looking at my if and only if means that I have the double-ended arrow. It is not Sunday. That's my negation of Q. On the other side, we have the campus is not closed. Okay. So the campus is not closed is a negation of P. Okay. And the rest of that statement's not there because it just says it implies the on Sunday part, which is included in our Q. So that is our biconditional statement. Let's put it all together because now we got all these things all together, all in one section, and we know that now we're going to start to group these things together. Okay, so we had the negation, the conjunction, the disjunction, the conditional, and the biconditional. Okay, and the table on those is actually on top of page 35, above what I have here. Now we want to talk about grouping these into compound statements. Okay, now symbolically, when we go ahead and put stuff in grouping in statements, right, we know that those things are going to be together. Okay, so Sorry, I left something off, I realized. So when we're looking at the symbolic statements, all right, we have usually a comma. All right. So looking at the first statement, we have Q and not P. In parentheses, notice if Q and not P, then there's a comma. That tells you that those two things are going to be grouped together. And then the rest of the statement is then, not are. Now, if you look at the second one, Q is by itself and it's first. Q has the comma after it. Okay, that groups, that's separate, and then that groups those two things together. Okay, and usually these take a lot of practice here. Parentheses are always on the same side of the comma. So in this case, you can see that Q is by itself, and the rest of it is the rest of the compound statement. So here is my P and my Q. They're kind of small at the bottom here. I'm really sorry. He earns $105,000 yearly. He is often happy. So the top statement is my P. The bottom statement is my Q. And I want to write this compound statement here. All right. So what I got here, my grouping part, sometimes you can go ahead and do first. So my grouping part here is P and Q. Okay. So he earns $105,000 yearly. And there's my and I have to have in there. He is often happy. Okay, you must put the other he back in there. Don't cut corners on there. Don't put and is often happy. That you have to have that he in there. Okay, now the negation part of that is we have a little bit of truth to it. I like to go with something like this when it's outside, as it is not true. Okay, and it's not true that, comma, he earns $105,000 yearly and he is often happy. Okay, so put that comma in your wording. Would help if somebody were to look at your statement and want to get back to its original symbolism. Okay, let's look at a couple of, there's the same P and the same Q on page 35. He earns $105,000 yearly. He is often happy. Okay, and no grouping here. Okay, so I have no grouping in here. I don't need a comma in here. So my not Q is he is not often happy. And you have a little bit of flexibility with phrasing. That's the one I choose to use. My symbol in between is the and. You don't have to capitalize them like I am. I'm just doing that for so that you can see the breakdown. And P, so P is not negated. He is not often happy. And then P, he earns $105,000 yearly. So I'm guessing money is not making him happy. All right, the last one, I invite you always to pause and try these if you want to. I'm going ahead and going through them, but you can always pause before I start working on these. And this one is grouped. Okay, and this is an if-then statement in parentheses. So we're saying Q, if then P, or if Q, then P. All right? So if we go ahead and do this one, make it an if-then statement. If he is often happy, then, so I have my if and then in there. Doesn't necessarily have to be capitalized. I'm just starting with the parenthesis part first. Then he earns $105,000 yearly. Okay, there's going to be a comma somewhere right here, and now I like the it is not true when I'm dealing with situations. So for the negation, I'm going to use that again. It is not true that, then the comma, and then your conditional. All right. So that's what we got so far. Ready for some more? All right. I'd love you to try these two first. This is example 13 on page 36. Okay, I would love for you to go ahead and try these and pause this for a second. Try doing these. Now we have three things. This is the first example where we've had a P, Q, and an R. So I invite you to go ahead, pause, try it out, and we'll go ahead and just meet in a couple minutes once you've finished them. Okay, so here I have my grouping together, all right? And I have a P and not Q, okay? And this is going to be an if-then statement because of here, all right? So I want to put an if, my stuff in parentheses, a comma, then the word then, and then my not are. All right? So if, now I want to look at P, the plant is fertilized. Okay. And then I have an and. The plant is not watered is the Q. So in this case, I have to do the negation of this Q. Okay, so the plant is watered. Comma, the word then, and my not are. So my not are, my are is the plant wilts, then the plant does not wilt. All right. Now let's go ahead and look at the second one. All right. And first I have P, so the plant is fertilized. Oh. The plant is fertilized, comma, and this is an if-then statement, right? So I need an if here. And if, negation of Q, and if the plant is watered, then, so I have my if-then statement, and then not are. the plant does not wilt. All right, so all of these right now, we've had our parenthesis in there. Parenthesis really helps us a lot with connecting things together. But sometimes we have symbolic statements without parentheses. All right. And so we want to talk about this idea of dominance of connectives. Okay. So if we have dominating statements here, okay, our least dominant is our negation. Sorry about that. Our next dominant is the conjunction and disjunction. I don't know what happened there. Our conditional, and then our biconditional. So our most dominant is our biconditional, because remember, biconditional means both statements must be true on both sides. Then it goes down to the conditional, conjunction, disjunction, and negation is last. All right. And so this takes a little bit of practice with this. I'm only going to do one, and my car alarm is going off. All right. So if there is too much homework, I want to look at the word or here. So I know there's a disjunction there. A teacher is boring. Then I do not take the class. So I have an if-then going on. And I have three separate statements here. P, there is too much homework. Q, a teacher is boring. And R, I take the class. All right. So if there is too much homework or a teacher is boring. So this is a conditional statement. Therefore, my conditional statement is higher up than the negation that I have here. So therefore, my conditional statement is the parentheses. So my if-then statement takes priority. All right. So if there is too much homework is my P. Oh, I messed this up. No, sorry. It doesn't go there. My apologies. I just noticed that. Or a teacher is boring. Or is my symbol here. A teacher is boring is my Q. Right. So the if, then it goes on the outside. My apologies. Please make sure that you notate that. All right. I do not take the class. So that's the negation of R. All right, so again, make sure that you're working through these. Work through this section rather well before you go on to 3.3. Don't look at anything from 3.3 with the truth tables. Go through this section. Make sure you really understand it. Make little charts for yourself that you have nearby. Make sure that you have the workbook nearby if you have that already. And I will see you in 3.3 when we start talking about truth tables.